When my biological parents found me, they were accompanied by the fake heiress and the fake young master. My mother introduced them to me. Your father and I were heartbroken after you got lost, so I adopted your brother, and your dad adopted your sister. From now on, treat them as your siblings, okay? I looked at their suspiciously similar faces and pretended to be innocent as I spoke. Of course we're siblings. After all, brother looks just like mom, and sister looks just like dad. Only I am different. I look like both dad and mom. The moment the words left my mouth, the entire family's expressions changed instantly. But I simply smiled. I knew that my parents adopting the fake young master and the fake heiress was just to give their respective illegitimate children an official title. In the previous life, I kept my head down, but was driven mad by the fake young master and fake heiress working together. My parents kicked me out of the house, and I died miserably on the street. But this time, now that I'm back, none of them will have an easy life. At that moment, the two equally powerful parents and the two greedy fake siblings were struggling to hide their panic. Finally, Daria George, the young lady, broke the silence. You just got back today. You must be tired from the journey, right, sis? She stepped forward, trying to take my hand, aiming to steer the conversation away. I didn't object. I wasn't planning on exposing them immediately. Planting a seed of doubt in their minds was enough. I followed Daria George to a corner on the second floor. She opened the door, and just like in the previous life, she pointed to the 50-square-meter room and smiled brightly. This is the biggest room in the house. It was originally mine, but now that you're back, I'm giving it back to you. I heard you often have nightmares, so I personally sewed you a bolster and put some calming herbs inside. It should really help you sleep. Right, brother? She smiled coyly and gently shook Galvin George's arm. Galvin George looked at me with annoyance and said, Daria put a lot of effort into decorating this room over the past few days. Don't you dare criticize her hard work. Galvin George's words made me find the whole thing even more amusing. I chuckled internally. It was nothing major, just stuffing some aromatherapy into a pillow. Even though that thing had caused me countless sleepless nights and even severe mental illness before, this time I still happily accepted it. I smiled and said, Thank you, sister, but this room is too big. I'm not used to sleeping in it. I'll take the bolster, but let's let mom and dad rearrange the room. With that, I walked out, leaving Galvin George and Daria George looking slightly awkward. In the previous life, when I was mentally ill, I suffered all sorts of discomfort in my body. I didn't want to go back to those days. Who knows what other surprises were waiting for me in that room, besides the bolster. I dared not sleep in a room renovated by Daria George. Seeing me come downstairs, my parents smiled kindly and asked, Kaylin, how is your new room? Do you like it? I smiled back and replied, The room is very good, but I don't want to take my sister's things. The small storage room on the east side seems perfectly fine to me. It just needs a little cleaning up. I haven't been here to serve you for many years, and I don't have the means to buy you any valuable gifts upon my return. Here is the bolster my sister gave me. Consider it my humble gift to you. I heard it contains calming herbs that help with sleep. I hope you have sweet dreams every night. As soon as I finished speaking, I immediately stuffed the herb-filled pillow into their arms. In this life, my parents had never been disappointed in me, so they were deeply moved, holding my hands tightly. Mom said, Kaylin, it's our fault for not watching you carefully, allowing you to be kidnapped by traffickers. You must have suffered all these years. After Mom finished, Dad handed me a bank card and said, There's $3 million in here. Tell your brother what you want, and he'll take you shopping. We will definitely make up for everything we owe you. Mom also took off the precious jade necklace around her neck, affectionately putting it on me and saying, This is my favorite item. Now I'm giving it to Kaylin. Wear it at the party tomorrow so everyone knows our biological daughter has returned. Daria George and Galvin George just came downstairs, their eyes fixed on the bank card and the necklace, their gaze flashing with gloom and envy. Daria George suddenly raised her voice. Sister, that was a private gift for you. Why did you give it to Mom and Dad? The calming herbs in the bolster are only suitable for you. If you give it to Mom and Dad, we need to change the herbs. Please keep that bolster, and I can make new ones for Mom and Dad. I smiled faintly and said, Dad is busy with work and has trouble sleeping, and Mom suffers from chronic insomnia. If this herb truly has a calming effect, as you said, It will be very beneficial for them. If you're worried, why don't Mom and Dad take the bolster to the doctor for a checkup, just to be sure? Before I could finish, Daria George nervously interrupted. No need. Even if the herbs aren't beneficial, they won't cause any harm. There's no need for such a tedious checkup. I immediately said, then Mom and Dad can use it with peace of mind. Unless Mom and Dad don't like the gift I gave you? Hearing this, my parents hugged me even tighter. Dad said, how could we not like it? Kaylin, we will sleep with this pillow every night. Mom said gently, don't stay in the storage room on the east side. Stay in the room on the south side. It was originally a guest room, but we can renovate it if you're not satisfied. Daria George's face instantly went cold, and she didn't say another word. Galvin George tried to speak, but was stopped by his sister's gaze. Mom glanced at Daria George, her tone much less gentle than in the previous life. Daria, take your sister to her room. The preparation for tomorrow's party is your responsibility. Daria George was momentarily stunned, and she asked resentfully, Mom, what's wrong? Did I do something to anger you? Or do you not need me anymore now that sister is back? I raised an eyebrow. It seemed my previous words had made Mom suspicious of her identity. Sure enough, Mom only smiled and said, how could that be? Since your father adopted you, we planned to raise you for life. Don't overthink things. By the way, you were 4 when you were brought back, but you never mentioned your biological parents. Do you remember them? Daria George froze. Dad quickly stepped in to smooth things over. The child was small then. What could she remember? All right, Daria, hurry up and take your sister to her room. No one noticed that at that moment, my mother subtly plucked a few strands of Daria George's hair. In the room, Daria George handed me a dress and said, Sister, this is a gown I ordered specifically. It's inlaid with 5 diamonds. It's beautiful. Try it on. The dress was indeed gorgeous, with a luxurious, dazzling design, perfect for the true heiress of the George group. But this very dress was what had made me a laughingstock of the whole city on my second day home in the previous life. And consequently, my parents' guilt was quickly replaced by embarrassment. This life, however, was different. This time, I would let Daria George step into the hole she dug. After changing into the dress, Daria George led me to my parents. She smiled sweetly and asked, Mom and Dad, are my choices okay? My parents pulled me closer, inspecting me from side to side, nodding repeatedly. Mom said, not bad, not bad. They're all blue diamonds. Kaylin looks both elegant and dignified in this. Daria George's lips curved slightly. She said, Sister, the diamonds on this dress are very precious. Why don't you take it off for now and wear it tomorrow? I obediently took the dress off. After I changed back into my clothes, she naturally took the gown and said, this dress requires meticulous care. The process is very complicated. To ensure no mishap occurs tomorrow, just let me hold on to it. I smiled and didn't refuse, saying, Daria, thank you. But if you give the dress to me, what will you wear tomorrow? Daria George pointed to a light pink dress in the closet and replied, tomorrow is your welcome party, so of course I won't steal your spotlight. I'll just wear this. I tilted my head, pretending to be doubtful. But this dress doesn't look expensive. It's too simple. Will Mom and Dad be embarrassed? A flicker of unnoticed smugness crossed her eyes. She replied, don't underestimate it. That dress isn't cheap either. It cost at least $3,000. I thought to myself, if she doesn't want to steal the spotlight, why wear such an expensive dress? But I didn't show anything. I just smiled sweetly and walked back to my room. I really wanted to see how far Daria George could boast this time. In the afternoon, Galvin George perfunctorily took me to buy some daily necessities. Afterward, he dragged me to a jewelry store, picked a few common items, and gave me the invoice, asking me to sign it. I took one glance and knew something was wrong, but he impatiently urged, you have to sign for jewelry purchases. You don't know anything, don't waste time. I pretended to sign my name resentfully, thinking that those looking for death were already few. But those who were eager to court death like this were a first for me. That night, I called the director of the orphanage. Thank you, Director. My parents are very good to me. It's thanks to your care over the years that I'm healthy today. I've donated $10,000 to the Happy Orphanage. I just transferred the money. The director was moved and thanked me repeatedly, finally hanging up after a long time. The night was quiet, but I could still hear my mother talking on the phone in the living room. Although she tried to suppress it, I could feel the rage in her voice. No wonder he treats Daria George so well. It turns out she really is his biological daughter. My family has helped him so much, yet he dared to betray me? If he dares to raise this bastard child right in front of me, he shouldn't blame me for being merciless. The next morning, guests began to arrive. To celebrate finding their lost daughter, my father even invited his estranged second uncle, whom he hadn't spoken to for years. In the grand hall, everyone raised their wine glasses, awaiting my appearance. After an hour of makeup, Daria George finally led me out. Everyone smiled politely, flattering my parents endlessly. Miss Kaylin is truly beautiful. You can tell she's President Hubert's and the madam's biological daughter just by looking at her. Even after being lost for many years, her presence is no less than the madam's when she was young. My parents happily exchanged pleasantries, their mouths full of polite falsehoods. As I slowly walked into the crowd, a strong beam of light shone down on my head, revealing the magnificent gown in every detail. However, everyone's forced smiles instantly stiffened, turning into mockery and contempt. Oh my, even after being separated for more than a decade, they wouldn't make their own daughter wear a dress covered in fake diamonds, would they? The George family isn't short of money. Why embarrass their biological daughter like this? I heard that since the George group was handed over to Hubert George, the internal structure has been rotten. Maybe they're struggling now and have to use fake diamonds to save face. Old Mr. Galvin George misjudged people. He should have left the inheritance to the second brother. And that necklace around her neck, isn't that just glass? The adopted daughter is still more sensible. Look at Daria. She's dressed modestly, not showing off, and hasn't embarrassed the family at all. The Hubert George they mentioned was my father. Whispers filled the hall. My parents' faces were pitch black, their eyes fixed on the dress I was wearing, growing heavier and heavier. That's right. The diamonds on it were all fake. So fake that anyone could tell. Daria George knew very well that I was lucky to eat clean white rice, let alone distinguish between real and fake diamonds. That's why she dared to brazenly switch them out, embarrassing me in public and making my parents disappointed in me. But compared to the previous life, things had been different since my return this time, so the outcome of today's performance would also be different. Amidst the laughter, my parents' faces turned cold. Mom lowered her voice and asked Daria George, who was in charge of preparing me, "What is the meaning of this?" She feigned distress. "I don't know either. Sister kept the dress after changing yesterday, and the necklace, she absolutely wouldn't let me touch it." At this point, Galvin George also stepped forward, looking like iron that couldn't be molded into steel, and said, "Sister, I advised you yesterday not to sell Mom's diamonds and necklace. Sister, you were too foolish. We know you suffered for many years, but now you're home. Mom, Dad, and we will compensate you. Why would you steal and sell the diamonds and the heirloom necklace Mom's mother left her? Luckily, I secretly bought them back." With that, he took out a sales receipt, which clearly stated that 10 blue diamonds and a gemstone necklace had been sold to the jewelry store for $5 million, with not only the store's seal, but also my own signature at the bottom. Then he handed the necklace back to Mom. She inspected it carefully and breathed a sigh of relief. But her cold gaze immediately fell upon me. The evidence was irrefutable. This time, they couldn't hold back. Disappointment flared into anger in their eyes. Dad's voice, though suppressed, was like thunder in my ears. "Kaylin George, why did you do this? If you needed money, you could have told us. Why steal and sell things from the house? Do you know how much this embarrasses us? You have no decency. Go back to your room immediately. Close the door and reflect on yourself." The scolding, despite being restrained, echoed through the hall. The guests mocked. Even with the fate of an heiress, she doesn't have the temperament of one. Someone used to living at the bottom won't look like a prince even if they wear imperial robes. Don't let her wear those robes, lest she sell them off. It seems genetics still can't beat the environment. The second uncle, who had been silent until now, laughed heartily, mocking. I thought my brother's DNA was something special. Turns out he only sired children of no good. A guest grumbled softly. If it weren't for Mr. Galvin George's favoritism, the George group wouldn't be collapsing under Hubert George's control. My father flew into a rage, glaring mercilessly at the second uncle. My mother irritably signaled toward Galvin George. Galvin George gave a fleeting, sly smile and gently said, "Sister, I'll take you back to your room first." Then he politely bowed to everyone, his face showing apology. "Excuse me, everyone. My sister suffered for many years outside. When she returned, we had her health checked. The doctor said she has severe psychological issues. Her actions just now can be understood. I apologize on her behalf to Mom, Dad, and everyone." Those words immediately diffused the atmosphere. The second uncle even praised him. Even though Galvin is adopted, his demeanor is no less than a biological child's. In fact, he's much better. Everyone turned to flatter Galvin George, forgetting what just happened as if it had never occurred. Having a psychological condition provided a perfect excuse for all wrongdoing and embarrassment caused to the family. My parents naturally didn't miss this opportunity and said, yes, we are still getting her treatment." My parents' words made Galvin George even more smug. He grabbed my hand even tighter, intending to drag me back to the room, as in the previous life, to continue his plan. But I had prepared in advance. Right at that moment, a film crew suddenly appeared and asked, "Excuse me, who is Kaylin George? We are from the TV station, invited by the director of the Happy Orphanage to interview you about your charity donation yesterday. Society needs such kindness, and we hope to report on your good deed to spread positivity." Everyone was bewildered. The reporter explained that they had just learned I donated $3 million to the orphanage the night before. My parents were momentarily flustered, then quickly brightened up, seizing the microphone and talking passionately to the media. They announced that the George Group had decided to allocate 10% of its annual profits to support charity organizations. Upon hearing about the orphanage's difficulties, they had voluntarily called for donations, and as parents who had lost a child, they deeply wished every child could have a good life. They spoke enthusiastically in front of the camera, appearing very benevolent. While they spoke, the eyes of the adopted siblings darkened, but they still managed to turn to me with feigned admiration and said, "Kaylin and we are kind people. Perhaps those diamonds were sold for charity." My parents then put on a consoling expression, their eyes conveying hope to me. But I changed my tone and responded directly, "But I didn't do those things." With that, I took out my phone and showed everyone a video clip. It was the scene of Galvin George coercing me to sign the form at the jewelry store. I had secretly turned on the camera while Galvin George wasn't paying attention, capturing the moment he tricked me into signing the sales contract. I said, "That day, my brother took me to buy a new phone and some jewelry. I found it interesting, so I recorded a video of us happily shopping together. I never thought I'd accidentally filmed this scene." Galvin George was visibly flustered after hearing me speak. I looked at him and asked, pretending to be wronged, "Brother, it wasn't easy for me to come home. Why would you want to harm me?" By this point, no one needed further explanation. Everyone stared at Galvin George's panicked face with contempt, murmuring, "We thought he was exceptionally suave, but his heart is so malicious. An adopted child daring to pressure the biological daughter like this truly doesn't know his place. He's so wicked at a young age. What will he be like when he grows up?" Galvin George frowned and retorted, "It's not like that. I didn't do it. The video must have been edited." But he had no evidence, and his every defense was weak and powerless. A sharp slap echoed across his face. My father was utterly furious, his eyes filled with disgust as he roared, "How dare you conspire against your own sister like that?" Galvin George stood still, lowering his head, no one knowing what he was thinking. Reporters immediately started taking photos, while Daria George was sidelined, completely ignored. I turned toward the camera, giving a fragile smile, and said, "I'm not like Daria, who can comfortably wear luxurious gowns and expensive fur coats, and who is always the little princess in Mom and Dad's hearts. Maybe that's why my brother dislikes me so much." Those lonely words immediately caused the reporters to shift their lenses toward Daria George. Under the lights, the seemingly simple dress she was wearing suddenly shimmered with vibrant colors. It was anything but simple. Daria George's expression shifted slightly. My father, fearing she would be implicated, landed another slap on Galvin George's face and shouted, "What right do you have to target Kaylin? You shameless, base thing." My mother, distraught, shielded Galvin George and said, "It's normal for children to make mistakes. Stop hitting him." My father's voice was filled with rage. "Children? Whose child? Adela Diana, I had a DNA test done. He is your biological son. I can overlook your premarital relationship, but if that bastard you bore dares to play tricks in front of me and disturb my family, don't blame me for being merciless." My mother gritted her teeth, glaring back and shouting, Do you think you're the only one being tolerant? Do you think I don't know? I have the DNA test results for you and Daria George right here. If you can find women outside to have children, why can't I? If you dare touch Galvin, then Daria George won't live in peace either. My father fixed a cold gaze on my mother, but didn't take further action. He turned to the guests, giving a blank smile, and said, "I'm sure everyone is tired. We won't keep you any longer." The guests, sensing the tension, quickly left. The grand hall was left in chaos. Dad collapsed onto the sofa, massaging his tired forehead. Galvin George stood silently to the side, his dark eyes occasionally sweeping toward me. Daria George cautiously observed everyone's expressions. When her eyes met Mom's cold stare, she involuntarily trembled. Mom suddenly spoke. "We can't put all the blame on Galvin. Kaylin's gown preparation was Daria's responsibility. She cannot escape involvement." Daria George feigned horror and said, "That's not true, Mom. I don't know anything." My mother sneered and replied, "Galvin wasn't here when you changed the dress yesterday. If you didn't instruct him, how could he have completed all those tasks so quickly?" Dad roared, "Daria George, you better not lie to your father." Mom said coldly, "You are still too naive. In the previous life, when I was wronged, no one bothered to analyze the situation or clear my name. Frankly, the people they loved the most were the illegitimate children they had raised by their side. There were some things that, as long as I wasn't involved, they would attack the other parent relentlessly for the sake of their own illegitimate child." Daria George's eyes darted around, clearly terrified by Mom's cold attitude. Yet she still forced herself to look aggrieved, crying and saying, "I truly didn't do it. Brother did this alone. He was afraid sister would compete for the family assets, so he did this." Galvin George was momentarily stunned, a look of betrayal and shock crossing his face. But before he could retort, Mom slapped Daria George's face, hard, and shouted, "Shut your mouth. While I'm still here, this is not the place for you to speak." Daria George covered her face, sobbing uncontrollably. My father was so angry that he smashed the teacup on the table, gritting his teeth and pointing directly at my mother, yelling, "This is my house. It's not a place for you to cause trouble. Now you and that bastard son of yours, get out of here." My mother scoffed coldly. "You are a cowardly freeloader. If you hadn't begged my parents to marry me, the George group wouldn't have been yours to inherit. You don't deserve to live here. You are the one who should get out." The two of them quarreled fiercely until the atmosphere was tense with animosity. The two illegitimate children looked on with pale faces as their parents tore into each other. Only then did I feel completely relieved. Finally, Mom couldn't take it anymore and led Galvin George out of the house. I looked at my ashen-faced father and pretended to be curious. "Dad, actually, Brother Galvin is very connected to our family. You know, his features clearly resemble Mom's, but his eyes and mouth look strangely like yours." My casual remark caused Dad to bolt upright from the sofa. His eyes were suddenly icy, capable of killing. That night, I heard Dad talking on the phone on the balcony. "Investigate thoroughly. See if she maintained contact with Egan George while she was abroad. I hear Egan George still hasn't left City A. Watch his hotel area for a few days." Egan George was my second uncle. I knew this, but pretended to be ignorant, secretly calling Mom. "Mom, can you sleep? Dad is furious right now, talking about investigating someone named Egan George." She stammered, "Kaylin, be a good girl at home. Don't listen to your father's nonsense." Then she hung up. News of the party spread across social media overnight. Galvin George was relentlessly criticized, while my actions somewhat helped my parents regain some face. Everything was summed up as a matter of the family's poor upbringing and the low quality of the adopted children. In the following days, Dad was rarely home, but occasionally when he saw me, he would give me approving looks and say, "We're lucky to have you. Otherwise, we'd be ruined this time." A few days later, public opinion about the George family gradually died down. But the George group hit the trending topics again due to Dad's decision. He hired a lawyer, and with the board's consent, he drafted a will stating that upon his death, the entire assets and shares of the George group would be split between Daria George and me. That day, my mother, whom I hadn't seen all week, returned home in a tense atmosphere, angrily saying, "I don't agree. Everything you have now is thanks to my family. You can give money to Kaylin, but don't even think about giving anything to that bastard." My father laughed coldly and replied, That's my money. It has nothing to do with you. Then Dad took out his phone and flashed the screen in front of Mom. The video clearly showed her cheating with the second uncle, and there was also a clip of Mom plotting to drug Dad. He said coldly, "Adela Diana, I underestimated you. You were planning to drug and harm your husband. If I hand this video over to the police, can you handle the consequences? So, it's best if you leave quietly, empty-handed. Otherwise, not only will your reputation collapse, but your entire maternal family will suffer." Mom's face turned pale. Finally, she gritted her teeth and accepted. "Fine. You are truly ruthless." Before my mother left, Daria George gleefully opened the door to see her off, saying, "Mom, oh, wait, Auntie, I wish you all the best in the future." Mom shot her a look of intense resentment. Watching this scene, a chill ran down my spine. A woman who dared to conspire to harm her husband. Daria George dared to provoke her. I quietly went back to my room and called a friend of Galvin George. "I've transferred $5,000 to your account. Don't forget to remind him that his mother doesn't hold many shares, but his father is different. He's a major shareholder of the George Group. Advise him to yield to Daria George. These small matters are nothing compared to money." The result was that my mother had to divorce and leave empty-handed, in exchange for my father deleting the videos and photos. As for Dad's will, Mom no longer had a say. Daria George and I were officially established as the George Group heirs. But the very next day, the George Group was called out on the trending topics again. Several photos of Daria George at the party were sensationalized, her outfit and jewelry were price tagged, and people criticized her gaudy makeup. Netizens gossiped, suggesting she deliberately showed off to boost her fame, forcing my parents to scramble to clean up her online image. Daria George tried to defend herself, but her explanation lacked the strong support team that I had. All her past scandals, her excessive partying, and bullying former classmates, which had been suppressed, were now exposed. Yet what she was enduring was less than a fraction of what I had suffered. In the previous life, I was also severely attacked by netizens due to malicious slander. I spent countless nights reading those humiliating comments and weeping nonstop. The more I tried to defend myself, the more vicious the insults became. They spread pictures of me collecting bottles and eating old balsa near the orphanage, calling me the trash heiress. I couldn't endure the pressure and suffered a mental breakdown, eventually falling into severe psychological illness. Only after my death did I learn that everything was a conspiracy orchestrated by Daria George. Now I would return it to her tenfold. I hired people everywhere to collect Daria George's scandals. She was already vicious, so digging up dirt revealed a heap of filth. The more she tried to explain, the more cover-ups were exposed, and the more netizens despised her. Even the George Group stock was severely affected. My father hired an entire online smear team to suppress public opinion, but they couldn't control it. It seemed a larger force was stirring things up. Even though my mother left empty-handed, she was still a daughter of the Diana family, and she had more than enough money to pay for the online water army. Finally, Dad couldn't take it anymore. He yelled at Daria George and froze her bank accounts. Daria George went insane with anger, pointing right at me and demanding, "It's all you, isn't it? Why are you treating me like this? I was so good to you." I replied coldly, "Good to me? If you thought the big room was so good, why didn't you stay in it and give it up to me? Why were the diamonds on the dress stored in your room, sold by Galvin George?" She fell silent, then dropped the act, glaring at me and growling, "You can't win. I'm the one Dad loves most. You won't be able to surpass me. My mother died giving birth to me. Dad grieved for days. His love for her and me is the greatest." In the following days, Daria George stopped targeting me. Instead, she hugged photos of her mother and cried in front of Dad. "If Mom were still alive, would I have to suffer like this? Dad, I don't want you to hate me. I can leave if it makes you happier." Initially, Dad was cold, but gradually he softened. He told me, "We are family. We must help each other." But of course, I ignored him and continued to hire more people to bring down Daria George. At the same time, news of Galvin George's engagement to the daughter of the Erica Group spread throughout the city. The alliance between the Diana and Erica families was a sensation for a while. Everyone knew my parents had separated, and most sided with the Diana family. My father, seeing the group's decline, couldn't endure the pressure and fell ill. While Daria George was panicking, I called the family doctor immediately. The doctor gave Dad a few injections, and he woke up. The doctor looked at Dad's complexion and said, "Have you been using too much aromatherapy recently? The symptoms resemble poisoning." Dad's face turned ashen. Poisoning? Impossible. I've only been feeling dizzy lately. I had prepared the script with the doctor beforehand, so he solemnly stated, as instructed, "These symptoms suggest short-term poisoning. We need to find the source of the toxins to treat the condition correctly." I glanced at a flustered Daria George and feigned a suggestion. "Why don't we search around the house? I only remember the smells of Mom's perfume, cosmetics, some essential oils, and the bolster my sister gave you. There's nothing else that leaves a scent in the house." Daria George shrieked, "No, you can't!" Dad turned his head to look at her. His eyes were full of suspicion. Daria George realized with a start that she had given herself away. She quickly forced a timid smile and said, "Dad, you're probably just mentally exhausted from work. This can't be poisoning. You'll be fine after some rest." Without waiting for Dad to think, I dismissed her. "It's just looking for a few things. It's nothing big. Your health is most important. Why are you panicking? Unless you're trying to hide something." Daria George was about to say more, but Dad's expression had changed. He sternly commanded, "Have someone bring that bolster here." Half an hour later, Dr. Zhang held the bolster and presented it to my father. "Mr. Hubert, the problem is actually with this bolster. It contains a large amount of a highly volatile, toxic, aromatic substance. It's very difficult to detect using Western medicine, and prolonged use will lead to conditions that are hard to treat." I feigned shock. How can there be poison in the bolster? This is the bolster my sister made herself and gave to me, and then I gave it to you, Mom and Dad." Daria George shook her head frantically. "No, it wasn't me." I replied coldly, "You made it yourself. If anyone had unstitched it to put something inside, there would be a trace. We would know immediately." My father meticulously checked every part of it. Indeed, there were no signs of unpicking. His eyes filled with rage. "I spoiled you too much because of your mother. I thought you were honest and kind, but I never expected you to be this vicious, daring to poison your own father." I continued, "If you truly didn't have malicious intent, you had countless opportunities to tell Dad to discard the pillow. Why let things come to this? Could it be that you were trying to buy time for Dad to die so you could inherit the assets early?" That sentence struck Dad's mind hard. A resounding slap landed squarely on Daria George's face. Dad gritted his teeth and said, "Get out. Don't let me see you again. Not one penny of my money concerns you." Daria George, clutching her face, screamed, "Don't forget Mom died giving birth to me. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have to live my whole life as a scorned bastard child. What right do you have to kick me out?" My father didn't hesitate, delivering another slap, coldly scolding, "Your mother gave birth to trash like you. I wouldn't regret her death 100 times over." Daria George then let out a hoarse laugh, her words like knives. "Only I know the formula for this aromatherapy. Without the formula, how will you detoxify yourself? If you don't give me money, don't dream of living any longer." Seeing Dad waver, I quickly suggested, "Dad, why don't you just give Sister the money so she'll hand over the antidote?" That request, made to a father being poisoned by one daughter and spoken by another, was truly unbearable. Dad's face darkened. He fixed his eyes on Daria George and said, "Just wait and see if she dies on the street first, or if I die from her poisoning first." That evening, I saw Dad frantically make a call and rush out. About an hour later, the friend I had planted near Galvin George sent me a video clip. It showed Daria George and Galvin George embracing. She quietly said, "I didn't answer your calls a few days ago because there was so much trouble at home, and I was afraid Dad would find out and be furious. It's not that I don't want to share the George Group shares with you, but that damn old man refuses to leave me any assets anymore." Galvin George frowned, but still tried to salvage the situation and comfort Daria George. "It was all orchestrated by that little bitch, Kaylin George. How can I blame you? If it weren't for her, my mother wouldn't have had to divorce empty-handed, and I wouldn't have been forced to marry into the Erica family." Watching the video made my blood boil. I snuck into Dad's computer and found the video of Mom and the second uncle cheating. It was true that Dad had promised to delete it, but everything was still intact on his machine. Immediately afterward, I uploaded the entire video to the internet. Insults rained down on my mother. They called her a calculating mistress. The sticky love affairs of those illegitimate children also disgusted netizens. In the previous life, whenever my parents traveled, I accidentally discovered their affair in their office. Afterward, they gagged me and nearly drowned me in the bathtub many times to silence me. I couldn't bear it that time and chose to end my life. But fate gave me another chance. So in this life, I decided to tear open every curtain and expose their filthy faces. As a result, the Erica family canceled the engagement with Galvin George. He and his mother became the laughingstock of the entire City A. I called Mom, feigning fear, and told her everything. "Mom, I'm so scared. Will Daria George harm me? If they refuse to give the antidote, will Dad really die?" I could hear the suppressed joy in Mom's voice. "Don't worry, Kaylin. You are my flesh and blood. I will never abandon you." Hubert George promised to delete the video, but intentionally reneged. Now I have nothing left. I'm no longer afraid. I'll make them all die with me. I cried loudly. "Mom, if Dad dies, won't all the assets go to Daria George? I'll be left with nothing." Mom then told me that Daria George had driven off to find Galvin George. The next news left me numb. Daria George was in a car accident, dying due to brake failure. My mother was the one responsible. After being discovered, Mom was arrested and imprisoned. Her life ended behind bars, with no chance of recovery. Dad grew increasingly confused. His mind was slowly deteriorating, but I still cared for him diligently. He now trusted me completely, entrusting most matters to me. The board of directors called, reporting that if Dad didn't draw up a will in time, the assets would legally be split between Galvin George and me. The second uncle loudly claimed that if Dad died, Galvin George's share would go to his family. I sneered and asked the lawyer to handle it for me. I knew what I wanted was close at hand. Late that night, Dad paid money to hire someone to kidnap Galvin George. He was locked in the basement, where Dad personally sliced his flesh, one cut at a time, before sending him to a mental hospital. 3 months later, he jumped off a building and died by suicide at the hospital. I stood not far away, looking at his bloodied and broken body. My heart trembled, but I also sighed in relief. Finally, they are all dead. No one can ever be cruel to me again.